You won't believe what just happened to me. I was having a pretty normal week, just finished a long shift at work, and was looking forward to some well-earned rest. Everything was fine, until Karen's son showed up at my door. Now, you've probably heard of Karen's before, but trust me, this one takes the cake. And her son? He's a grown adult, fully capable of getting a job, yet he's been sitting at home doing absolutely nothing for months. No job, no school, just video games and snacks all day. So, imagine my shock when he barges in and demands that I give him my entire paycheck. Yep, you heard that right. He didn't ask. He demanded. Said he deserved it because I have a job and he needs money for the new gaming console that just came out. He even went on this weird rant about how it's not fair that I get to relax at work while he has to suffer at home being bored all day. I almost laughed, but then I realized he was dead serious. I tried to explain, politely at first, that I worked hard for my money, that I had bills to pay, groceries to buy, and, basic responsibilities. But that didn't sit well with him or his mother. Because just minutes later, guess who shows up behind him, arms crossed, scowling like she's ready to go to war? Yep, Karen herself. And that's when things went from strange to absolutely ridiculous. She looked me straight in the eye and said something that honestly left me speechless. At that point, I knew I had a decision to make. Either give in and lose all self-respect, or stand my ground and risk the chaos that was clearly about to follow. What happened next? Well, let's just say it got way messier than I ever expected. So there I was, standing in my own living room, facing a grown man who thinks he's entitled to my paycheck, and his mother, Karen, who was clearly backing him up. She started going off about how I should be supporting young people and that her son was under so much stress from not having money to buy the new video game. System. I was still trying to process how we even got here. I mean, I barely even talked to them outside of the occasional awkward hello in the hallway. But suddenly, I was expected to fund his gaming lifestyle? Karen kept going on, saying things like, "It's not like you have a family to feed," and "You don't even do anything important with your money." The nerve. She acted like my paycheck was just lying around waiting to be handed over to whoever felt like asking. Meanwhile, her son just stood there, arms crossed, looking smug like he already had it in the bag. He even pulled out his phone and started showing me the exact console and games he wanted to buy. He wasn't asking for a loan. He wanted the whole thing. No offer to pay it back, no sign of gratitude, just straight-up entitlement. I tried again. To keep things calm, I told Karen that I worked overtime last week just to cover my rent and that every dollar mattered. But instead of understanding, she scoffed and told me I needed to learn how to share. And then she actually said something like, "If you were a good neighbor, you'd help him out instead of being selfish." That hit me hard. I've helped plenty of people in the past. But this was just unreal. And right then, her son started walking toward my bag on the table. Like he thought he could just take it. Continue the story from the previous section and write that explore the main conflict in depth. Develop subplots and dive into different angles or perspectives, but keep the tension building. Don't resolve any of the major conflicts yet, and keep the suspenseful tone while ensuring the story remains engaging. Use relevant keywords naturally. Also, do not make any headings. Only write story in paragraphs. Also, keep the wording simple and natural tone. Also, make the script human-centric and don't give feel of AI-generated. Also, don't create violated content which can affect YouTube policy. I stepped in front of the table before he could get any closer. My bag was sitting right there, unzipped because I had just pulled out my keys, and my envelope with the paycheck was poking out a bit. I hadn't even had the chance to deposit it yet. The way he looked at it, like it already belonged to him, gave me chills. I calmly told him to back off, that he had no right to go through my stuff. But he just shrugged and said, "It's just sitting there. If you're not going to help, I'll help myself." Karen didn't even flinch. She actually nodded like she agreed with him. She crossed her arms tighter and said, "If you don't want trouble, I'd just hand it over. He needs it more than you do." I was stunned. What kind of mindset is that? Since when did needing a video game become more important than someone paying their rent? This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, boundaries, and they were crossing every line without even blinking. I started wondering if this had worked for them before. Maybe there were other neighbors who gave in just to avoid the confrontation. Karen had a way of speaking that made you question yourself for a second. Like, am I really being unreasonable? But then you remember, this is your money, your hard work. As if things couldn't get more twisted, Karen started digging into my personal life. "You live alone, right? No kids, no partner. You probably don't have any real expenses. What are you even saving for?" It was beyond invasive. I had no idea how she even knew that much about me. I barely spoke to her beyond a quick wave in the hallway. Clearly, she'd been watching more closely than I thought. And then, out of nowhere, her son pulled out his phone and said, "If you don't give me the money, I'll post that video." My heart dropped. What video? For a second, the whole room felt silent. My ears were ringing from the shock of what he just said. I stared at him, trying to figure out if he was bluffing. "What video?" I asked, my voice low and tense. He just smirked, waving his phone a little like it was some kind of trophy. "You'll find out soon enough if you don't hand it over," he said. Karen didn't say anything. She just stood there, watching me, almost like she was waiting to see if I'd break. I was trying to stay calm, but inside I was spiraling. What kind of video could he possibly have? I hadn't done anything embarrassing, definitely nothing illegal. But still, there's something terrifying about someone saying they have dirt on you, especially when they say it with that kind of confidence. I started wondering if he'd recorded me without me knowing. Maybe outside, maybe when I was coming home late from work. Maybe when I had that bad day and vented on the phone near my building. Could he have twisted something out of context? My mind raced through every possible scenario. Karen finally spoke up again, her tone colder this time. "It's simple. Hand over the check and we all walk away quietly. No drama, no online mess." She made it sound like I was the one causing trouble, like I was the unreasonable one here. Her son took a step closer, holding his phone tighter now, and said, "You've got 10 seconds to decide." I felt trapped. My paycheck, my privacy, my dignity. It was all on the line. I kept thinking, how did it come to this? Just days ago, I was minding my business, working double shifts to stay ahead. And now I was being blackmailed by a jobless gamer and his overbearing mother. Then, in the middle of that pressure-filled silence, I heard a knock at the door. A sharp, urgent knock that made all three of us freeze. The knock came again, louder this time. Karen turned her head sharply, clearly not expecting anyone. Her son froze mid-step, still holding his phone like a weapon. I didn't move. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I had no idea who it could be. But right now, any interruption felt like a possible lifeline. Karen whispered something to her son, and he quickly slipped his phone into his hoodie pocket. She took a step toward the door like she was going to answer it, but I raised my voice just enough to stop her. "It's my apartment," I said, trying to sound steady even though my nerves were shot. "I'll get it." I slowly walked to the door, trying to keep my hands from shaking. When I opened it, I couldn't believe who was standing there. It was Mia, my coworker and friend. She looked surprised to see Karen and her son inside, but didn't miss a beat. "Hey, you left your ID at work, so I thought I'd drop it off," she said, holding up my lanyard. Her eyes scanned the room, quickly, picking up on the tension like a radar. "Everything okay in here?" Before I could answer, Karen jumped in with her usual charm. "Oh, we were just having a friendly chat about helping each other out in the community," she said with a forced laugh. Her son tried to smile too, but it looked more like a grimace. Mia didn't buy it for a second. Then, the second twist hit. Mia pulled out her phone, scrolled for a second, and held it up to show me a message. It was from an anonymous account. My face, blurry and zoomed in, taken from what looked like outside my building. The caption read, "Does your coworker act like a saint at work but treat neighbors like trash?" I stared at the screen, stunned. Karen's son had already started. The threats weren't empty. And if that post went viral, my job, my reputation, everything I'd worked for could be on the line. My stomach dropped as I stared at the photo on Mia's phone. It was me, no doubt about it, taken from behind a bush near the entrance of my building. Karen's son had already started spreading rumors online, twisting the story before I even had a chance to defend myself. I could feel the walls closing in. He was playing dirty, and if that post gained traction, I could be in serious trouble. Not just with work, but with anyone who saw it and believed the lies. I looked over at him, and he had this smug little smirk like he was proud of himself. Karen still had that phony neighborly smile on her face, but her eyes gave her away. She knew what her son had done, and she was fine with it. I turned to Mia, trying to keep calm, and said, "Can you save that post? I think we'll need it." That's when Karen's son made one final mistake. He reached into my bag again, fast. This time, thinking the distraction was his chance, but he wasn't counting on Mia. In one quick move, she stepped forward, blocked his arm, and said loud and clear, "I'm recording this." She had her phone pointed at him before he could react, camera already rolling. "Keep your hands off other people's stuff." He backed away, his face going pale. "You can't film me," he shouted. Karen tried to step in, saying Mia was violating his privacy, but Mia didn't flinch. "You posted a photo of someone without consent and made false claims. You want to talk about privacy now?" The tension snapped like a rubber band. Karen pulled her son toward the door, muttering something about misunderstandings. He didn't look so confident anymore. But just as they were about to leave, Mia said something that froze me in place. "By the way, that wasn't the only photo on that account. There's one of me too." I looked at her in shock. Another photo. Another target. This wasn't just about me anymore. He'd been watching more people, maybe even planning more than we realized. Mia. And I stood in silence for a moment after they left, the tension still hanging in the air like fog. I locked the door behind them, my hands finally steadying. I asked her what she meant about the other photo, and she showed me. Another blurry shot taken outside our workplace, clearly of her from a distance. Same anonymous account, same creepy caption. That's when it really hit us. This wasn't just some spoiled kid looking for money. He had been watching people, tracking them, and using photos as leverage. It wasn't just harassment, it was calculated manipulation. The next morning, we both reported everything. We took screenshots of the posts, turned in the video Mia recorded, and submitted it all to the building manager and HR at our workplace. Within days, the account was taken down, and the building issued a formal warning to Karen and her son. Word spread fast. Apparently, other neighbors had stories too, but had been too uncomfortable to speak up. Now they felt like they could. Turns out, I wasn't the first person they tried to take advantage of, just the first who pushed back and had backup. I finally deposited my paycheck and treated myself to a quiet evening with takeout and a movie, the kind of peace I hadn't felt in weeks. Mia and I even laughed about how bizarre the whole thing was. But underneath the relief, there was a lesson that stuck with me. Setting boundaries matters. Just because someone feels entitled doesn't mean they are. and staying quiet to keep. The peace isn't always the answer, so yeah, Karen's jobless son thought he could take my paycheck to buy video games. Instead, he got exposed, and hopefully, a wake-up call. And me? I got my voice back.